All right. So welcome to our first Google Club of 2026 in actual 2026. And it's our fifth one in the fiscal year 2026. And what we've been doing this year is working on um, using Google tools to help build digital resilience, both for ourselves and for our students, but primarily for ourselves, because we, as people who are teaching, need to feel comfortable using tech in order to enjoy doing it and do it as much as we can and do it in a way that's useful for our learners. But everything we talk about obviously can be turned around and talked about with your students as well. So each of these meetings is kind of a standalone. You're always welcome to ask questions about other things than the main topic, but there's kind of a main topic. And today's main topic is about citizenship, online citizenship, and being safe, and understanding a little bit about how Google both gives you tools to help you be safe and also uses your data, probably, right? Takes your data and sells it or uses it for advertising and things like that. Um, but again, there's opportunities throughout for you to ask questions. It doesn't have to be about what during the beginning of the session, I'll be taking us through some slides. There'll be some things for you to try out, things for you to say. And then there's always opportunity to ask questions about other things, or if there's something you want to share about how you're talking about security or digital safety. And that's the idea of this being a club versus just a workshop, right? Is the idea that this is a space for us all to participate in. Okay, so my name is Nell Eckersley. I work at the Literacy Assistance Center. I do mostly workshops around using technology in education, and nowadays we talk more about digital skills and how those two things go together. And Google Club, this is our fourth year. We've kind of used different ways to organize the information, but basically we're just always trying to find ways to use the Google tools to help us as teachers and administrators. And sometimes that means it's class time stuff, or sometimes it's just organizing yourself. Okay, so a reminder, you've seen this before, I know. If you're looking for more workshops that you can attend or other information from DYCD, you can always go to DYCD Connect. So the objectives today, let me close this down a little bit. So after today, I think everyone will be able to identify online citizenship and safety digital literacy standards. So we're going to talk about that to get us kickstart us today. So there are digital literacy standards to help us know what are the skills we think we should be teaching when we're teaching digital skills. And there's a specific section of those that are around online citizenship and safety. And I thought it was worth looking at those. When we talk about digital resilience, this is part of digital resilience, is understanding what the standards are for digital literacy. I kind of feel like this area of online citizenship and safety is it's reminding me a little bit of when the Literacy Assistance Center was doing work around health literacy. And, no one here wants, I mean, maybe there's a doctor here, but most of us are not it's not our job, and we're not trained to give medical advice and talk a lot about extended medical things, but we are able to talk about filling out a health form or knowing your rights or things like that. I think that if there's people here who feel really, really good and comfortable with their own um, habits online, 100% that you're doing what you should be doing around security and online citizenship, that is fantastic. But I will say for myself, I am really good at parts of it and really sloppy in other parts, and I would like to get better. And part of that is knowing what are the things you can be doing. So that's where those standards come in. And then you're going to be able to locate information about your account on Google and update things and change things and make sure that the settings are the way you want them to be. And there are a couple of different places you can do that. There's sort of general Google account. You have a general Google account where you can manage some stuff, and then there's specific settings in Chrome. So depending on the machine you're on or the Chrome account that you're logged into, if you're logged into Chrome, those things will come up. So those are the things that are going to happen today. a reminder that these are the upcoming Google Club meetings. So we have them once a month. We're a little bit off schedule in April, but otherwise they fall on, I think it's the third Wednesday of the month. And next meeting will be about Google daily tasks and community engagement. Really, it's productivity, I think. And then we'll be talking about continuous growth and finding open education resources that you can continue your learning around Google and your students can continue learning around Google. The idea of digital resilience as an addition to digital literacy is that idea that technology always changes. And so in order to be resilient around technology, we have to be ready to adapt as things change. We have to build up our self-belief and our mind, so we're willing to try out the new things and not get irritated. Just before I came on here, I was trying to log into my Amazon account on a different computer, and it made me break out in hives. It's so hard. So we struggle, but we want to notice that, and we want to develop good habits and have some good foundations that make us feel safe and comfortable so we can try out the new things. So this continuous growth is a very important piece of digital resilience. And then in April, we will be talking about more productivity, streamlining tasks using Google Workspace and AI. So we'll be looking at some AI tools in April. And the last session will be in May. And usually what we do at the last session is a show and tell. So it's an opportunity for you guys to, you always can do show and tell. So anytime you want to talk about something that you've been doing kind of in the topic that we're looking at, but on that last session, people bring things they've been working on all year or tried out during the year. And it doesn't always have to be a success. You can just be telling us where you are in your process, but be thinking about that. We learn a lot from each other. I don't get to be in the classroom, so I have lots of ideas, but I don't get to really try them out. You're the ones out there really trying things out and making them happen. So it's really great to learn more about what you've all been doing. All right, so we're going to talk about our standards to get us kicked off. We're going to then talk about digital footprint. We're going to look at our account privacy and settings and our Chrome security features so you know where those are. So a lot of this will be me showing you, and there's a lot of resource links, and you might be doing this after the session today, but it's something for you to be able to come back to. We'll talk a little bit about how do you verify whether websites are secure, and also Google's role in data tracking and what Google is doing, how you feel, you get to decide how you feel about it, but being aware of the fact that Google, it's free in the sense that we don't pay money for our accounts, but they're obviously getting a benefit from us using them. So they're using our data for that purpose. And once you don't need to go to our folder, there's like one document in there besides the slides, but you'll have this link when the session's over. And if you guys ask questions that I can't answer, or there's information that we share during the session, I'll add those back into the slides. So you'll have those either these slides will get updated and the link you get today, or when you get it in email, will get you the most up-to-date version of the slides. Oh, so fun new thing. We have been using Google. Actually, for Google Club, I've not made a Google group. So for a lot of the mailing lists that I manage, we use something called Google Groups, which is has been a fantastic tool for many years, where you could take a bunch of emails, put them into Google Groups, make a Google group, give it a name, and then you could just send one email to that group, and people could reply, or depending on how you set it up, there were different ways you could set it up. Over the last couple of years, it's changed a little bit. So it used to be super easy just to add everybody to a Google group. Then it got a little harder. If you didn't have a email that was associated with a Google account, I couldn't just add you. I'd have to send you an invite to invite you to join. And now when I do that, you also then have to associate some other email address with Google if you don't have one. So it's gotten very convoluted and very frustrating. So I'm now moving over to something called Gaggle, which is not Google, Gaggle email. And Gaggle, I'm still kind of trying it out, but it allows me to add people with no problem. I sent out a warning that I was going to be adding you all to a Gaggle email group, and I think you probably all got a welcome email from that. I should say the people that are in my usual mailing list. So if you're new to this, you may not have gotten that, but I'll be adding you after today. And that way I have one email address and I can send out announcements and reminders to you all that way. You also can take yourself out of it if you don't want to be part of it, and you can change it so it's a digest. So just be looking out for Google Club emails coming from gaggle.email and a welcome email so you can join. Well, you'll be joined already, but so you'll see that you are part of the group. Okay, so online citizenship and safety, digital literacy standards. Does anybody want to say anything about, is anyone here covering digital literacy, or sorry, I should say online citizenship and security, safety? Have you been working on that with your learners? So Pietro, I see your question in the chat. Yes, so the sessions are always 4 to 5:30 on that third Wednesday of the month. As I say, we record them, so if you can't make one, it'll be recorded. We'll do a survey at the end of this year to see if people want to do it a different time or different day. Kind of fits in for a lot of people, right between the folks who teach earlier in the day and the people who teach at night. But I know it's frustrating, so I know several people who haven't been able to make it because the time just doesn't fit. But yes, answering your question in the chat, 4 p.m. So anybody want to raise their hand or just put something in the chat or unmute and tell us if you've been working on something around safety online with your learners, how you decided what to include in that if you were doing it. All right. Pietro, were you unmuting? No. I'm just looking around to see if there's anyone who's getting very excited to talk. All right. Well, as I said, I feel like this is an area where a lot of us maybe feel a little insecure about our own habits, never mind being the teacher talking to our students about what are good habits. So what my suggestion is, or one thought is that you can come and look at a couple of different places for standards or for framework. So this first one I'm showing you here is from the Seattle Digital Equity Initiative. They went to, I think, I don't know, 5, 7 different kinds of frameworks that are international, and they kind of mushed them all together and they came up with 10 domains, so 10 buckets of information, and one of those was privacy and security. And they listed out here what they think are things that we should all know how to do, right? So we should be able to manage our online reputation, verify secure websites, limit sharing of personal data, help our kids stay safe online, help ourselves stay safe online, our parents, or everybody maintain well-being online, recognize online threats, and understanding privacy policies. You may, in your work, my work has now brought in a system that every month we have to do a little lesson on cybersecurity, and often it's about like how to not, click on the link in a phishing email and things like that. So you might already have some familiarity. So this is Seattle Digital Equity Initiative, SDEI. I like their framework. The link at the top would take you out to their full framework, but I don't feel like it's very precise, right? So it's kind of broad. It gives you some examples in that right column about what managing your online reputation looks like, right? So awareness of permanence of actions in digital environments. So I like this, but I like better North Star has standards as well. So you might be familiar with North Star. North Star is a digital literacy assessment that's been developed by Literacy Minnesota, which is a nonprofit, and now it's kind of its own company. And it's probably one of the few national digital literacy assessments that's out there. I know some programs in New York City use it. You can go to North Star and take the assessments for free. Programs can also pay to be a North Star site, and then you get to access the back-end data, so you can see how people are doing. They can take the test several times, and the work is towards getting a certificate. So if you pass the test, I think at 90% or 98% or something like that, you get a certificate, but it has to be proctored. I totally recommend going to North Star and taking some of the assessments yourself, just because I think it gives you a lot of vocabulary. I've certainly learned things that I can do but not talk about, right? So I found it very useful to take their tests. Um, but they've in making their assessments, and there are, I think, 16 or 18 different assessments, very specific areas of information, they've also developed standards, and that's how they made the assessment. So they have a digital footprint standard or set of standards, and they go into quite a lot of detail, right? So if as a teacher, oh, okay, I want my student to be able to tell me what a digital footprint is. That's good. I could work on that, right? I can include that in a lesson. Understand why a digital footprint is important. Okay, that another conversation perhaps. Right? So they get very, very discreet in what it means to be able to have digital literacy around your digital footprint. So that's one of their set of standards. And then they have a second one that's related, which is cybersecurity. And this is probably a little bit more complicated, but we all do this. I mean, at this point, I think, for example, the multi-factor authentication, even if you were just picking elements out of here, probably if your learners or you are trying to access many sites these days, there's going to be a multi-factor authentication and what that means and what the vocabulary around that is. So you have these three different lists of skills that you can pick and choose from as things that we should all be familiar with. So this is about your own digital literacy as well as digital literacy in your classes. Oh, thank you. Margaret says 85% to get your North Star certification. Fantastic. Okay, so that's something for you to know about. You can come back to those. So if we're talking about our digital footprint, managing your online reputation, I'm going to ask you to do this right now. So I haven't done this for a long time, I have to say. So we're going to ask you to you are going to open up your browser. If you need to leave the Zoom and come back, you can do that. But you're going to open up your browser and you're going to Google yourself. And I'm going to do it. I'll stop sharing. I'll stop this full screen mode and I will open up a new tab. And so I'm not going to type it in here. I'm going to go up to what I call the Omni box at the top, just because that's my habit. And I'm going to type in my name. So I'm Nell Eckersley. And so I can see very quickly the social media that I'm involved in, right? And like, what's weird is it brings in my friends and colleagues. That's kind of crazy. So I can keep scrolling down, see all the different things I've been part of, right? I can go to next and see some more things. So so far, these all feel okay, right? Like if I was going to be applying for a job and someone was going to Google me and these were the things they saw, I'm kind of okay with that. But I'd want to check that. Then the fun thing is to go over here. So when we're in our Googling, we can click on images and then we can just see images. And this is the weirdest part because why? Like this is something I liked on Pinterest and it's coming up in my thing. This is a person I know, but like, why are anyway, it's a very weird, very weird. And I have to say, I have a name that's not so unusual, or it is pretty unusual. I had a friend whose name, I'm going to try it right now. So his name was Giso, and he lives in Madison, Wisconsin. So I'm not even putting in a last name. There he is. So if you have an unusual name, just having your first name and your location or your job or something like that can let people find out a lot about you. And so it's very important that we go in and check this every now and then. Sometimes you can't change it. That is problematic. There are companies you can pay money and they can go in and get rid of certain things. But at the very least, you know what people can see. And part of the reason this is so important is that it means that other people can seem to know you because they've done a little research and they can call you and or email you with information that makes them seem like they're legitimate, like they know you, right? They knew your parents or something like that. And in reality, they don't. They just were able to grab salient little pieces from the internet. Now, I've been sloppy, and that's why my stuff is all over the place. I have a colleague who I was trying to find a picture of her to put in our holiday banner, and I could only find one picture, and it was from when she was 14. So she's been very good. She does not have a lot of stuff on the internet. So it's possible that, like my sister and my brother, they're much less on the internet than I am. So not everyone's going to have lots of stuff. Some people are going to have names that are very common, and then there'll be a big mixture. I did find other Nells. I think there's like a 90-year-old Nell that lives in Rhode Island. But this could be an interesting activity. Now, it can be disturbing. So if you do it with your learners, you might want to be aware that like some people are going to be really shocked by what they see. Hopefully not. But it's an important thing to know because it's there. And it really does come up when you're applying for a job or, you know, even for school, or if people are hiring, if you're hiring people or the people are hiring you, like this is a really common activity nowadays to just Google each other. Does anyone who's tried this out to want to share anything surprising that you're seeing when you Googled yourself?
I'm
Oh,
desperate
nice.
to I'm
Yes.
desperate to share that apparently um, I love all the different Kate Gills. One Kate Gill choked to death,
Oh no.
unfortunately. Yeah, I'm sorry. So
It's sad.
I may be a ghost.
Yes.
You know, there are a lot of them and they're all doing different things. Those all the Kate Gills that are, you know, out there. Yeah, lots.
Yes.
So yes, I
That's
never thought
interesting. Yes.
it's all these yeah, the abundance
The
of
abundance of cake
possible.
kills. Yes. And I see, Marie, thank you for sharing. So October was Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and you worked with students on their passwords, right? And not to approve MFA prompts if they didn't initiate and watch for scammers. Fantastic. And Ferrantos, you say that your LinkedIn also shows up. Fantastic. LinkedIn is not bad, right? Because that is, and a lot of us, it's funny, again, with organizations I'm part of, we've often wanted to do social media. I'll take Porgiso down. He doesn't need to be up there. Um, that, there's a lot of social media tools. Oh, is there an obituary here? Yes, there's a Dennis Hall. All right, Dennis Hall. So now you know a lot of other Dennis Halls. Crazy. Pietro found himself in a Russian website. How? How does it happen? It's craziness. Um, early days, I'm trying to think what it was. It might have been Facebook. It wasn't Facebook. It was something before Facebook where I decided I would find all the other Nels and I would friend them. And we became, and then I realized it didn't do any good at all. It was just fun for a moment to find all the other Nels. So you can have fun with it. But yes, there's question marks, there could be disturbing information, but it could be an activity for learners to do. And one of the things, the one document in our folder is this digital footprint activity, which you actually ask learners you can print out this footprint and then you ask them to fill in information in these different quadrants, and then you can talk about that together. There's another digital footprint activity that the Applied Digital Skills, if you're familiar with Google Applied Digital Skills, they have a lesson on digital footprint, and they basically have groups of students work together to create a spreadsheet of activities that can lead to adding content to your digital footprint. In some ways, it reminds me a bit of a credit history, because I think you do kind of want to have a little bit online. I think people would feel more secure, or they will have questions if there's absolutely nothing about you. And so it's good in some ways to have something, and you can control what that is. If you don't have very much up there right now, maybe you have a LinkedIn account and you post a few things there. So noticing what could be a beneficial thing to have available online and what you would like to not have there. So crazy pictures of you drunk on Instagram, maybe not so great. Or I remember with Facebook too, people were very good about their settings, their security settings on Facebook about who can see what, right? So most things in Facebook only other friends can see, but that's a setting. So if you don't have that set up, there you could go into Facebook and look for you without being logged in. And what was interesting, I remember early days, people would be really like have really strong opinions about like definitely don't want people to know my political opinions and I don't want them to know my religious opinions. So I would check those off, but I would let my photos be seen by the world. And photos say a lot, right? Like you took a photo of you and your kids in front of your house with your house number, or you say you're on vacation, right? So these are all these things that we don't need to do so much of anymore in our social media if we can help it. Camille, I see your story. So there's a story up there about you from the Caribbean, but you don't like the picture. Yes, there are disturbing pictures. The history of my haircuts is all over the internet. So yes, so that's what the digital footprint is. That's why it's important, right? It's important because there are people who do need to know about us to assess information about us, and we want to make sure that our story is coherent. So even if there's stuff up there that isn't so great, the fact that you know about it, you can be proactive if you were in an interview situation, or if it came up, it wouldn't be a shock to you. So that's kind of, I think, why it's important for us all to pay attention to that. I'm just checking the chat. Okay, so that's our digital footprint. Again, a couple of different activities there. So now managing your Google account privacy settings and Chrome security features. So this is what, let me put us back into our slideshow mode. So how does anyone, can anyone find where you see something that looks a bit like this when you're in your Google account somewhere? I'm going to make this smaller so I can see. So if you happen to have your browser open and you're looking at your Google account, maybe on your Google Drive page, for sure, I know it's there. But I think anywhere in Chrome, if you're logged into Chrome, you have a little picture at the top. It could be your initial, it could be an image that you've put in there. I have my face there. If I click on that, I can go and look at my Google account, right? So I guess I am going to escape from this again. So if I go to my Drive, this is my work one. So this will look a little different. If I click on here, I see this. And then if I want to, yeah, this is a bad example. Let me stop sharing and take you to my personal one. So it is different if you're looking at an account associated with a workspace account, which is usually your employer, versus your personal Google account. So I'm going to look at a personal Google account. So this is usually associated with a Gmail or something like that. Let me just get back to the sharing screen. All right, so now I'm in my personal one. And again, part of the way I know which account I'm in is that I have slightly different images in my account information. So if I click on, I can click up here, which will show you all the different Chrome accounts I can access. And I can click on manage your Google account here, or I can do it from the bigger picture. The bigger picture will just show me the current one that I'm in. Notice this is a place you can add your photo or an image if you wanted to add an image instead of having your initial show up there. So this is one of the places you can make that change. This shows you some other information. It's showing me how much data I've used, or how much memory I've used. But I'm going to go ahead and click on the Manage Your Google Account. Now, notice, I don't know if you can read it up there, but if you look at the URL, what is the rule we've said about most Google tools? Most Google tools, if I want to get to them, and I'm just going to get there by typing in an address, we've said before, right, that docs.google.com, sheets.google.com, forms.google.com, weirdly, it's mail.google.com, not Gmail. So here we have the same rule, right? myaccount.google.com. So you could get there by just typing that in. You don't actually have to go find yourself in these little pictures. So myaccount.google.com, and then it's going to have some extra stuff there. But just typing in my account.google.com will get you here. And we see here that I could search my Google account. I can look up my password, my devices, password manager, my activity, email. I have my little launcher up here. And then down the side, we have a lot of different um, tabs, right? So we have personal info, security and sign in, Google password, third-party connections. Third-party connections was interesting. I went in. So what I would say is you want to come here every now and then and check out all these different things. Or you want to make a rule for yourself that you're going to check out one every Saturday for the next, I don't know, how many are there, 10 weeks, just so you're familiar with what's here. So third-party connections was immediately kind of interesting to me because what does that mean? That means that when I've logged into these using Google. And so there's a connection there that I might or might not want to have anymore, right? So I might come in here and be like, oh, what's going on? I don't remember that. I don't want that. So I'm going to come in here and I can delete something, right? So if I come over here to, let's do Google Education Live. I don't even know what that is. So I can see a little information about it. I can delete all the connections, right? So I can make some decisions. So this is work. This is not, it's not something you can just do lightly. I might call it couch work. Like you could be sitting on the couch and have your laptop, and today the one thing you're going to do is go check all your connections. Or I used to have, I think I still do have a lot of passwords that are out of date. Like I have that on my list of what I'm calling couch work to do. So I could sit on the couch and check all my passwords. But just see that there's a lot of stuff there that we don't even know is being saved for us, perhaps, or that we wanted to have kept for us. Um, People and sharing, let's see what that does, right? So these are people. So the reason I have two, this was a very weird situation. I have a personal account. My dear friend Carrie Fina, who's married to my dear friend Kelly Craft, invited me to join their Google family account, which was really nice of them. And the reason I did that, I think, was so we could share music. Well, it turns out that Carrie has paid for 2 terabytes of data, which is why I now I can have all of this data. So there is something called Google Family, and you can share it with other people, and then you guys could have combined. They don't get to see your data, or they don't get to see your stuff, but you're using memory altogether. But I had forgotten that that had happened, and so it was a conversation with him about something else where I realized, oh my gosh, we're there. But if I had been checking this, I would know that more, right? So here's the family group that we're talking about. All right, I'm going to go back to home. So this is what a personal one looks like. I'm going to stop sharing and I'll take us back to my workspace one. Or actually, I'll take us back to our slides. All right, so if we're looking at our slides, so that basically these are all here. So this is what it looks like on my personal one, and I can see the email address that's associated with. So this is the difference between these two lists, right? So one of these lists is my personal one, and one of them is my workspace one. And if we look at them beside each other, we realize there's a little difference, right? So can anyone guess, left or right, which one is my personal one versus my work one, my Google Workspace one? You can put it in the chat if you want to.
Is right is personal.
Right is personal. Why do you say that, Margaret?
This is this family group.
Oh, good eye. Yes, exactly. So because we had looked at that just now, you remembered that family group was there. That's fantastic. Google One
Payment.
storage. Oh, yeah. Somebody else?
Big. Oh no.
Go ahead, Submarine. No.
No, I said I saw payments and subscriptions, but it's in the other side too.
The other side too, right? So kind of interesting what's in both places, and that they kept some of the colors and some of the colors they changed. It's interesting. So I didn't even know this term, but Google One is now the name for storage. So when you have a Google account, a personal Google account, you're saving stuff in your Google Drive, but you're actually saving it to a Google One storage server, maybe we could call it. So Google One, if anyone says that to you, that's what they mean. Google One storage. It's the actual amount of memory that you have. Nice. So Marika, oops, sorry. Marika also says family group. Oh, let me go back. Okay. So let's see, what are the other differences? So we have payment subscriptions in both. We have people and sharing in both, but family group was only in personal, right? Data and privacy are in both. Third-party connections, both. Passwords, both. Security sign-in. So the big difference really is that Google One Storage, which is specific to the place where my data is saved, and family group, which I'm in. So if you're not in a family group, I don't even know if that will show up. It might be that these look more similar to you. I like to do activities like this where you compare two different, like we've done, I think we've looked at it before. Like if you look at the drop-down menu that shows up when you click on File, when you're in a Google Doc, and you take a screen grab of that and you compare that to the File menu in Google Slides, because they're really similar. And what I think that does for folks who are new to slides but are familiar with docs is let them know you actually know a lot already, right? It's just these few little things that are different that we need to notice. So noticing how, noticing a pattern is a really great way to understand a little bit about what's going on. I think sometimes when we do digital literacy training, I'm certainly guilty of this, where you become a bit of a tour guide. So you're like, okay, everybody go to the upper right corner to log in, versus, can anyone tell me where you log in, or how is this similar to this other page where we logged in, or, looking for those patterns, because that is what you're going to have to do when you suddenly go to a new place, right? So this adaptability and being ready for something new, or when something changes, having a very clear sense of how you can do it and the thing that you're comfortable with, I think will help you when you land in someplace new. So comparing menus, comparing things that are kind of similar but a little different, I think is a great activity. All right, any questions, any comments about your footprint, about going in and managing your Googly stuff? I'm going to escape here for a second. So I think I showed you the Google account stuff. What we didn't get into was the Chrome one, and I think that's in the next section. So so your Google account is a thing, and Chrome is another thing, and they both have some level of security and things like that. So we're going to look at the online security and privacy in the Google Safety Center. And look at that, safety.google. It's just weird because it's not google.com, but it is safety.google. And again, I think this is a great place for us to learn, but also maybe to take our learners so they read parts of this and report back on it. So there's an overview, there's safety by design, product protections, and safety settings. So as we scroll down, it's a lot of stuff, right? So you might want to check it out before you decide what you're going to bring to your learners. When you click on, so let's see what I was looking at before. Let's look at private by design. So if I click on learn more, it takes us into another thing. So this is Google's perspective of themselves. So, obviously we know that we can take things with a little grain of salt because they think that they're doing great things and they're going to tell us the great things they're doing. So there's a lot of information here. Under safety settings, you can go in and talk about ad settings. So one of the big things with ads, for example, is you can have your ads personalized. And again, there's no right or wrong necessarily about this, but what personalization does, it means it's watching you and then it's going to give you what it thinks you want based on your history. If you turn that off, I don't know if maybe it doesn't look at you as much and it's just going to keep giving you ads anyway, but they're not going to be so specific to your demonstrated desires. I think we've all had that experience where you Googled for something and then maybe you're trying to buy a pair of very comfortable sneakers, and then the next time you go to Instagram or you come up on another website and down the side there'll be an ad for the same sneakers. So that is what's happening, right? That it's grabbing information from something that you're putting out there. The disturbing one, I know we joke about this with my colleagues, is like you speak out loud about something and then it starts showing up in your Facebook, and that's disturbing. So is it listening to you? These are the questions. So you get to decide which one you want. And I don't have a recommendation. I think the clarity to understand is that if you do say you want personalized one, which I think I selected that because I prefer to see ads that have to do with what I'm interested in, but it does mean that they're definitely gathering data on my previous activity to know what I like. I just doubt that they don't do that anyway. So you have that. Let's see. I think I have some other links here that were a little easier to get to. So, right. So privacy practices, ads and data, built-in security, scams and fraud, security tips, authentication, right? So there are all these areas, which is the safer by design. Let's go back to this section. So this section is one that I think could be very useful. Yeah, again, it's their own perception of themselves. So that's the ad center. I'm just looking for the place where you get to actually control it. Yes. So here I have my ads are personalized. So I could come here and I could turn it off. Right? So I could go to sites and apps that partner with Google, and I could learn how personalized ads work. So there's a lot of content here. And this is another piece of online or digital skills in general, is reading on a screen. I am very guilty of looking at this and just seeing that blue plus or blue check mark and not necessarily reading all the pieces. So we want to get in the habit, especially in a situation like this, of reading everything. And so thinking of activities where we practice that, where the not doing it has some real consequences because you miss out on making choices that you actually have the power to make. Okay, so my preferences in my ad center have been deleted. Oh, I guess I got to put in preferences, and I have to say I looked at that when I was getting ready for the session, and I don't know where those preferences came from. They were not anything that I remember ever putting together. Let's see if I turn this back on again. What happens there? Yeah, see, I don't have preferences. These are all trending ad topics. Pets and animals, beverages. Like, I guess I'm supposed to come in here and spend a lot of time saying I really don't care about beverages, but I'm super excited about TV shows and programs. I don't know. But it's something to go through and check, right? Same with brands. Okay, so lots of stuff there. So customize ads. This is where I get to put in what I like, I guess, and then manage privacy. And so it has vague information about me. Yeah, oh, look at that. I have a high income. That's fantastic. I have an advanced degree. It's interesting what they think that's true about me. All right, so again, just being aware that all of this information is there. This is not information that other people can find very easily. This is not public information that would come up in a Google search, but this is what Google has and knows about you. And that's something for you also to be aware of, because that impacts what information you get going forward. All right. So if we were imagining doing some sort of lesson where we included some of this work, what are some things, some ways we could imagine bringing this content into a class situation with your learners? Like, you don't have to go to the website, you could print out something, but what could you imagine doing with it? Kennelly, I'm just seeing your email and I will definitely let you back in. Or your text, I should say. Or your chat. Anybody, any thoughts about anything similar to this that you've done? I mean, this is reading, right? So you could just take this as an article that learners would somehow process, and then there would be something that would come out of it. Some of this, like I said, is hard to do in a classroom in that maybe you can't go in and change, people can't go in and change their settings right when they're there. But understanding some of this stuff, what are some ways we could imagine? What are some ways you handle right now? Your learners are reading an article. What do you do when they read an article?
Mel and
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
So where I am with my students is basically they use their phones. Then they have Google accounts, so we can all, so that they can use Docs and Drive and download these, the Google Suite, right?
Right. Right.
Some parts of it. However, um, okay, and a good number, let's say, don't have computers. They may have a tablet. So I find that um, often, and I have an Android. They have an Apple
Right.
phone,
Yes.
and Google. I just came across like, okay, so the point is they have this Google opportunity.
Yes.
And so what I'm largely also trying to do is acquaint them with all the um, all the possibilities of space and documents
Yes.
and sharing. However, in the phone, the first block is password, right? So
Yes.
because they're not used to putting in their password.
Yes.
And so I guess I'm looking now at the wonderful you look at all the Google account, the home, personal info,
Yes.
security and sign in. And many of them also don't feel safe.
Yes.
And this seems like
It would
uh,
alarm. It'd be
getting,
alarming. Yeah.
well, no, also sort of beyond the, um, trying to bring things closer to
To where
their,
they are. Right.
yeah,
Right. No, I think that's a great point, right? So, passwords, and again, I've heard, so it could be that this is not the piece where we start. We start with like scams, right? Getting an email that asks you to do something, and how can you identify whether that's an email you should trust? Is that kind of content that they might be interested in?
yes. And what I've done only with in terms of the standards and just looking at I don't even know what you call, not the suffix, but is it a .com, .org,
Yes. Yes.
dot, dot, what is the address telling you?
Yes. Absolutely.
Um,
And
but
even the difference between a URL and an email address, right? Like those things I think are, so there's some very basic stuff, absolutely, for moving through just being online, right? Like the internet in general has all of those components. So that's a really great point. And do other people find too, like, are you having to create some of your own materials for this, or did you find some great materials out there to help people just get those very basic things of like, yeah, what are some good ways to make a good password that you can remember but that you don't have to necessarily write down and that will fit all the requirements. That alone, I mean, I think that's a struggle for all of us, probably. Is there anyone here who's really happy with their password process? Proud of it? No, I feel like it's a common issue for us. So I do know that some people have just gone to password managers. I definitely have my own system, which I think people would tell me is not a great one, where I kind of have a basic part that stays the same and I change the ending depending on the site that I'm at. But I will let you all know that it has to do with how many letters are in the name of the site, and you won't believe how many tools and sites have 6 letters. So there's a 6 in a lot of my passwords, which is exactly not what you should do. So working on that, right? Just even capital letters, lowercase letters, or, those ideas we have of like a sentence about the thing, and then you just take the first letter and just practicing some of those. To me, those are amazing language opportunities too, right? So I think that's a good one, right? To remember that just even getting passwords is such an important piece for all of us and for our learners. So yes, you may not want to go to that high, depending on who you're working with and what's going on. But I didn't do that, and I will try and add some screenshots of what this looks like on a phone, because I do realize a lot of our learners, they are, whether they're using an Android or an iPhone, they may still be using Chrome, or they may still be using Gmail, and they're in there using their Google account, and that they can still manage some of these settings there. And so I'll try and add some screenshots of that, because I think that could be a helpful place where that's how it might be something where you're bringing it in with your learners. Okay, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. Let's go to this one. Okay. So spotting a scam, I mean, I think some of this could be an interesting one, because it does come out in what goes into emails. We had a very disturbing thing happen the other day where one of my colleagues, a group of us got emails from her. It said her name. The email address was not hers. So that was how we realized it couldn't be her. But it mentioned, it had each of our names. Hi, Nell. And then it mentioned another person's name who's our treasurer, and said that she was like stuck out of she couldn't get into our account, and could we Zelle some money? And that was so disturbing, because so many of my tricks, or the ways that I can tell whether an email is not authentic, first of all, if it doesn't say my name, right? So like if I get an email from Netflix and it says my account is about to expire and it doesn't say my name, I don't believe it's Netflix. That's step 1. Step 2 is to go look at the email address itself, because usually that's pretty easy to see that most of those emails come from some either misspelled Netflix or completely bizarre email address. What are some other ways, when you in your own lives get emails or text messages, how do you tell, what are your sort of dirty secrets of how you guess whether it's a authentic email or inauthentic? What would make you think it was not real? Anybody want to share? You can put it in the chat, or you can unmute. Because we all have kind of techniques, right? We might not be proud of them, but I think those are 2 legitimate ones. And the trainings that we've done, again, in my agency, that checking on the email address is a really good one. And often if you just scroll over it, it will eventually open up and show you the full email address. Anybody else have any tips? Or for websites, how do you know if a website is real or not? Or any stories about, hopefully not terrible experiences, but, oh, good, we got some chat. Let me check it out. Yeah, so asking for money, you can assume it's fake. Certainly be double careful, right? Elisa, go ahead.
Sometimes if I'm doubtful, I will, get on another device and just try to Google the real website to see if there's like some kind of corporate website that I can check out.
Excellent, Alyssa. It sounds like, Dennis, you're going to do that too. Marie, the too good to be true. I cannot tell you how many times you know, something shows up on my Instagram or something, and I'm like, ooh, I want that. Oh, it's that cheap. Oh, I should get it. And it's like, I want it to be true. But yes, the truth has to be that it's too good to be true. Don't trust it. Um, that's fine, Frontos. Take care. Thanks for being here. Yeah, so Marie also mentions the HTTPS. So S is a more secure site. And actually, Chrome does a pretty good job. In fact, it will protect you from straying too far in to anything too dangerous generally. But that still means we need to be a little bit alert for websites and for I've had some weird experiences. So going back to the too good to be true, I there's a backpack I wanted, and I was looking at the website where they sold the backpack, and I'd looked on eBay and I'd looked around, and I found this website. It was I don't remember what the brand was, but the brand name was the website address, but it had .us at the end of it. And I just thought that's pretty typical, right? That there's a US version of this company. So I went ahead and ordered, and I never got a confirmation. And the price was very low. And I never got a confirmation. And then so I did take a screenshot because I did it on my phone. So I took a screenshot. And so, you know, a month had passed and I hadn't heard anything. So I emailed the company and they were like, thank you for letting us know because we see from your screenshot that you bought it on the xyz.us and that is not us. Someone else had that website address and was selling, but not really selling anything. And they were very, very nice. The company sent me a free backpack, and I think it helped them identify, you know, someone that was scamming off their name that they might not have known about. But it was it was like, oh my gosh, I would not have known to look for that. Now I do. So emails, right? So if I don't know the person sending the email, that's a very, like, again, be careful, right? What happened with this email I mentioned the other day, where it looked like we'd all gotten an email from Amy, people emailed Amy and said, Amy. They didn't reply to that email. They sent her a separate email. And I think that's kind of what I'm hearing. Same with like looking at the web, you know, going to the website on a different device or opening up a different browser, getting there from your own activity rather than clicking a link. Clicking a link is always very suspect, I would say. So those Netflix, I get a lot of Netflix ones, and it's been funny because sometimes I don't even have Netflix, and then I'm like, haha. But when I do have Netflix, of course, it makes me a little worried, and that is part of what they really thrive on is that they catch you in something that makes you worried, and so some of your normal smarts get a little bit dissolved by the fear that you might be feeling. And so if you're in a vulnerable position more than usual, even, that's when we tend to fall for these scams. And so we have to have some just like basic habits so that we're not taken advantage of when we're at our most vulnerable. Oh, interesting. So I see, Dennis, your point about the chat GPT or other websites letting you know if it's a scam website. And I've done that before too. So we have something called Snopes, right? So Snopes, if you find out about something, you know, Nell Eckersley is now the Queen of England, you could go to Snopes and look that up. And Snopes is usually pretty good at letting you know if it's a scam. And I think they do the same thing with websites. I've looked up sometimes Better Business Bureau, right, to see reviews of a company if I think that the offer looks too good to be true. We've had a weird thing, as I was mentioning earlier about Google groups. We had a weird thing where we have a Google group for the New York City Alliance for Digital Equity, and I made it available to the public. So if you look up New York City Alliance for Digital Equity Google groups, you'll find it. And then you have to ask to join. And in order to do that, you have to write a little sentence or two about why you want to join. And we did that to make it easier for people to join us, but we've had all these people join us. And when they first would get in the group, they would immediately send out an email about inexpensive duct cleaning. And we still don't understand, like, why are you aiming it at our group? Because it really has happened like 10 times. So now we have a new rule where we can let you come join our group, but we're not going to let you post anything for a little while. And we've still seen these ducks, and they're these very personal emails where like, my friend Johnny is bringing in a duct cleaner next week, and if you'd like a discounted one, then we could get a group rate. Like, what? So it's very weird. First of all, I don't think it's probably even real, but secondly, why are they aiming it at our group? So having examples of an email with maybe a crazy address, or an email with too good to be true, or having an activity there where, right, you're looking at how do you decide which one is good or bad, and that could be a whole conversation. Yes, do they defeather the duck as well? Nice. Okay, so I would agree that that is a good place to start, right? Being safe, feeling able to choose that this is another scam that I've seen was with text messaging, which I kind of, again, thought was a little safe, and now I don't anymore. So I've received text messages telling me that my account has been compromised, but the people texting me are the ones compromising my account. So twice I've not fallen for it, but I have fallen for it. I've gone through to a certain point in the process and realized, wait a second, and gone to my bank and done it in person. But it's alarming because so much of the experience of doing it in reality was mirrored in the scam version. Like the phone line wasn't very good. The person had a strong accent. They used kind of the same language. Again, it's alarming that someone is using my account. So they did all the things that just set me off. And then I had it happen a second time. The second time I didn't even, I just said, I'll call you back. And I went to a bank because I had the luxury of being able to go physically to a bank. But even at the bank, it's crazy because then they'll ask you, there'll be a code that is sent to you on your phone, and it has a message with it that says, don't give this code to anybody. And then the person at the bank says, what's the code? Because that's their process. So it's very difficult. So giving people some real foundational clarity is very helpful. And basically, like, not living in horror, because I do think there are people who are afraid of the wrong things, right? So they think the things that they're looking for, the things that they're worried about, are actually the less likely to happen, and then they fall for the things that are actually more easy to guard against. So we want some clarity there, and we want people to feel comfortable and have some tools. So I think what I heard from all of you, this idea of getting to the real website or whatever on your own by looking at it for yourself rather than clicking on a link, looking at the person who sent the content or whatever, that those are two really good tools. I do have one last story in that area where a colleague of mine buying a house, and she was nervous because her mortgage was in process at the time, and she got a phone call from the IRS telling her that she had a problem and she needed to pay immediately. And because she was in the process of buying a house, she was very nervous, and she was smart. As she was on the phone, she went to the IRS website, and the phone number had the same beginning part to it. And it really, the tools she had to decide whether this was legitimate or not, really, she did a lot of work to figure it out, and she still was nervous. So she went with it. And I'll say, I think someone else maybe mentioned this, certainly, I mean, the too good to be true, but in this case, they wanted to be paid in Apple cards or something like that. So that's never going to be how anyone ever wants to get paid. But she fell for it. She started to buy some Apple cards. So just saying, we can all fall for it in the wrong moment. But yeah, whenever they want you to pay in any of those gift cards, that's never a good idea. So this last piece here, and again, it's more for you. I don't know that this will be useful for your learners, depending on the levels they are, but this is kind of going into understanding what Google does with your data. There are people who use a browser called DuckDuckGo, which is a different browser than Chrome, and often people go there because they feel like it's less tracked. And this article is saying that even there, Google can find you. So these are two articles from outside of Google. And then in here, we can actually learn a little bit more about what Google's doing with our data and how some things that we can impact there. So cookies, I think, is a good one to talk about in the sense that they pop up all the time and that people should know they should be able to disable cookies. But cookies are also beneficial. If any of you have ever cleared out your cache and then come back and suddenly none of the passwords you've saved or websites you're used to going to don't pop up, that's what cookies do. So cookies can be beneficial, but third-party cookies where they're tracking, they want to learn about you so they can advertise you, maybe you want to control for that. So again, just knowing what to do when they pop up. In Europe, most websites have to have, they have the disable all as an option right there on the screen. Here, we often have to go to one more layer. Marie, I see you said start page. Tell us more. Should I go there? I don't know if I should go there in this conversation about going to websites. Can you tell us a little bit more? You can put it in the chat too. I can read it out, or you can tell us more about what start page does for us. I'm going to trust her and I'm going to type it in. Let's go look at start page. Ah, there you go. Private search engine. No tracking, no searching. Nice. The world's most private engine. I did not know about that. Let's add that to our, I'll add that to our slides so people will have access to that if that's something you're interested in using. I'll remind myself by putting it here. Start.
Nell,
Yes.
when you said I'm afraid of going there, simply going to a, what you think is a web address, how could that endanger you?
I mean, this is a good question, right? So there are, with cookies, there is information that they could get pretty quickly.
Okay.
But I also think that this is one of those places where I have like I was kind of making a joke, but I have a nervousness that is not based in any concrete thing. We have talked, so for example, QR codes. People have brought up the idea that, if you scan a QR code, can that be damaging? And it can be, because it can take you somewhere where there's a virus waiting to kind of get in your system. So you don't want to just scan QR codes out in the world unless you're in a restaurant or you're in a grocery store and you're pretty sure that the QR code came from them. But that's a good one. I should look up what exactly could happen if I typed in a website address. What are the worst things that could happen? Because I do think it's one of those fears I have without really knowing why. And that is probably not the problem. The problem is probably something different, right? So if I go to that website and I click on a button, that's maybe when I'm in danger. So just going to go look at it might not be the problem, especially with Chrome, and I would guess Safari and some of the other, maybe all of these browsers at this point are really quick to identify scam websites and don't let you even go there, right? I don't know if you've ever had that pop up where I'm like, no, it's okay, it's just really old and it doesn't have the S on the end of the HTTP, but they're like, nope, nope, take me away from danger. So thank you for bringing that up, Kate. I will now go and do some more research so I can, and I will include here what the pluses, what are the possible dangers if you were just to go to a website, and what could happen. That could be bad, and why it might not be true at all, might not be a problem at all. So thank you for asking that.
But in your answer, though, what I understand is there might the cookies, all that, any research we're doing, any kind of investigation, any kind of opening this window, that window, this window, that window, we are our path is being captured, and that could be data that could be used, and we are not aware of it, and it could end up
but I think that we could know more. So I think that I'm like, I don't know how long. So if I go to a website, and they have cookies, right? I'm sure we've all done this where you open up a website and it tells you at the bottom that we use cookies and you need to do something about it, and you either don't do anything about it or you exit out. Like, I don't know at what point it grabs the data. So that's something that I think I could know more about, and then I'd be a little bit more aware. So I said all those things, but that's all from my mind. So I think that I need to do a little research, because this is what we're kind of talking about, right? That we often have, just like with health things, we have logic that we've kind of developed over some other. We know something about this, and now we're going to take that knowledge and think that it's applicable over here, and maybe it isn't. And with both health and with internet stuff, that can be dangerous, not only because you miss the things that really are dangerous, but you are worried and afraid of things that are actually not the danger, because it's unknown, not because you know really what's going to happen. So what your question did for me right now is just illustrate to me that I have that about going to a website. I don't really worry about going to websites, but I won't click a link in my email to a website, because I think that I could be going directly to getting malware or something put on my phone. But if you ask me exactly how that can happen, I don't know, right? Like, I have this vague idea. So what you're helping me know is I need to be a little clearer in that, and I can do some research and I can share that with you guys. And if people here know, because some of you all do know, yes, Margaret's point in the chat about using incognito, right? So if you are on a public computer, or in general, you don't want your searches to be captured, you can clear out your history at the end of the day if you want to, but you can also go in and open incognito. Now, I'm not even able to show you how to do that. I thought you did it down here. I guess open a guest profile. Nice, Marie. We'll add that to our link too. We'll add it to the sheets. Anyway, so there is an incognito one, and I will get you the link to that, because I don't know where I'm not able to find it here. I'm very aware of it on the Chromebooks, because when you first log into a Chromebook, you can decide what what level of account you want to access there. So that probably didn't even show for you, but it didn't bring up an incognito window. So we'll get that together. All right, so I'm going to give you so again, I'm going to add a few things to our slides. So when you get them later, they'll have new pieces in them. I am going to give you the link to the evaluation. And while we're doing the evaluation, if anybody has questions they want to ask or observations, maybe some of the things I said were goofy and you have knowledge you want to share, I'm gonna Google. So you have the evaluation link in the chat. I'll also go to that slide. So there's the information about today's session and a QR code that is safe. If you want to scan that and do it on your phone, you can do that. And we do really appreciate you doing the evaluations. They are something that our funder wants to see and we want to see as well. So I know it can be kind of frustrating, but we do appreciate them. And so any questions or any other thoughts? And it doesn't have to be about this stuff today. It could be other googly questions.
I have a question. It's googly, but
Excellent.
when you're doing things on YouTube and you're making like a playlist, does all that information does it count against your the amount your Google the gigs that you have for your account? Like, I have a 15 gig limit. So if you're like, just compiling a list, does that count against you?
So if you're creating a playlist on YouTube, that definitely doesn't count against you. And I don't think the videos do either. I think YouTube is separate from your regular Google memory, but I will confirm that. I've definitely put up quite a few videos on YouTube, and I don't believe those are coming from my 15 gigs of data. What really takes up for most people, it's email. So if you haven't cleaned out your Gmail for a while and you have a lot of attachments or images there, that will take up a lot of memory. So that is counted there. If you're using the Google Photo app, that all those photos are taking up memory, but the YouTube does not. And certainly playlists do not. So the same, if I create a set of slides and I share them with you, they take up memory in my account, but not in your account.
As long as I don't make a copy, then it's in my account.
Yes, good point. If you make a copy, but like I have this situation where I have a work account and a personal account, and I need to remember to create things in my work account because I can go in then and edit it from my personal account, but the memory will be sitting in my work account. So yeah, memory is an interesting, it's changed a lot, right? Early days, if you used Google tools, it didn't take anything away from your memory. Then they changed that. So now everything takes away from your memory. But again, the big files are slides if you put lots of images in them, Google Photo, and Gmail. And if you look at your memory, if I'm over here and I go to my memory, I won't show it here, but if I was in my personal account, it'll actually, you can find where your memory is being taken up. And I don't believe YouTube's in there at all, but I will double check that.
Okay.
But certainly,
if I download something onto my phone just to save on my phone, if I don't set up a default, it's going to take up space in Google Drive, right?
So you have an Android phone?
Yeah.
So if it's saved on your phone, it probably is not in a Google folder directly. So it depends. So when I download something on I have an Android phone. If I download something on my phone, it actually goes into a special Android phone file center that is not part of my Google Drive. So it does not count as anything googly until I take it from there and put it into Google Drive.
Okay.
Sense. So it's going to take up memory from your phone, but it's not impacting your Google account. But you should double check. Mine, that's the default on mine, that a download goes to this phone file area. Different phones might be set up differently, or maybe that's something you can set up yourself to have it go straight to Google Drive, and then yes, it would. All right, any other questions? That was a great one. Thank you, Elise.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna, I've taken some notes. I'm gonna look up just to confirm about YouTube if you're adding videos there, but I'm pretty sure certainly the playlists do not count against your memory. I'm going to look up directions on how to get to an incognito window, even in regular computer, not just a Chromebook, and understand the dangers of going to an unknown website. And then I will share that knowledge with you in the slides. So thank you all so much for spending a very cold afternoon with me here, and I look forward to seeing some of you, maybe all of you, at our next Google Club or between now and then if there are other workshops that are coming up. Always feel free to reach out with questions about googly stuff, but also digital skill stuff. It's all good. So you'll have in the slides you have my email address anyway, I'm sure, but you'll also have the link to our blog where I will be putting the recording from today and access to our slides, as well as the email I'll send you. You'll get it all. All right, thank you so much. Again, if you have any questions, I can hang out for like 5 minutes. I'm going to stop recording now. But otherwise, we're done for the day. So have a really great rest of the evening. Stay warm.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mel.
Bye.
You're welcome. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Yes.